right, so something that's been kind of driving me crazy over the last couple of weeks is seeing content coming out about Magic the Gathering and Wizards of the Coast coming out wanting to make more content for Magic the Gathering that they feel would attract more female players. So they talked about stuff like K-pop, more romance and things like that. And then I've seen a lot of videos of people going on there and talking about how that's not what we want, like how, you know, out of touch are you, things like that. Like, you need to make it more inviting for female consumers and players to be able to play at your local game stores and things like that. And the reason why that's driving me crazy is not because they're wrong, because they're not. Like, they are not wrong. What's driving me crazy is the fact that we don't understand the separation between Wizards of the Coast, who makes Magic the Gathering, and the local game stores. So I want to take a second. I wanted to make this editorial video to talk about some of the things that I think need to change to be able to make Magic the Gathering more inviting for its female players. Andrew, why are you the one making this video? You're not a woman. You're just a dude, right? And you're right, I am just a dude. But I'd like to give you a little bit of my credits and credentials to be able to make this video. So first things first, I've spent the last 15 to 20 years in retail management. Not only did I spend it in retail management, but I had the opportunity to be able to be a part of some great brands that were very male driven, and not only their product, but their structure and how they operated their actual brick and mortar stores. And I made my career on the fact that realizing 20 years ago that the consumer who was buying brick and mortar, who was shopping in the stores, was not me. It was my wife. It's the moms, it's the spouses that are going out, and they're the ones spending the money. And now, 20 years later, like, people see that, but I think in some cases it's been too late, and I think that's why you have a lot of store closings, because of just the service and things like that. But that's a whole separate argument, right? But I've spent really the last 15, 20 years trying to make businesses that cater to the female consumer, because I understood that that's where the money was. And so it was taking brands and product that were primarily driven by the male consumer and allowing us to be able to create an environment that was welcoming for our female customer, that they enjoyed being able to shop in, and most importantly, that they were okay with bringing their families into. So when I tell you that I feel like I'm fully vast on the world of retail and how to be able to try and market and be able to bring in the female consumer, it's just because I've been doing it for 20 years and I've been doing it successfully. So that's my background as far as my professional background goes. As a fan, I just started playing Magic the Gathering. Like, I've played, at the point of making this video, 4 Hands of Commander. I've been in a local game store. I mean, hell, you may have been in a local game store watching this video more times this week than I have been in the entirety of my life. So, but I am a fan of Magic the Gathering, and I'm a fan of a lot of the collaborations that they're doing, and it was the Final Fantasy collab that got me into Magic the Gathering. So, I, as a fan, understand going into the local game stores, and because of my background, seeing what these female game players are seeing. Watching one local game store where my wife felt extremely uncomfortable to walk around and even to shop with me there because of the people that were there, versus going into another local game store that she loved, and we sat down for hours and hung out and enjoyed ourselves. And so I want to talk about what some of the differences are there, but more importantly, where things need to change, at least in my viewpoint and opinion. And it's not just about me. If you're watching this video, I would love for you to comment below. Tell me what your thoughts are. Tell me what you think, and because we're only going to change this if we're together, right? So first things first, Wizards of the Coast has nothing to do with your local game store. They don't. They're just the people who make the product. They don't control what your local game store does and doesn't do. And in fact, even if they wanted to, there's not enough micromanaging of the world that could allow them to do that effectively, okay? So when they come out and say, well, we want to be able to make cards that are more popular for our female consumers and themed to be able to target our female game players, they're not wrong. Like there are people out there who would get into it because they did a K-pop Demon Hunters collab, or because they, as I'm sitting here in my office, me and my wife share an office, and I'm looking at some of her books that she has on her bookshelf on her little library, and seeing the fact that there are some collaborations with some of these popular book franchises that I think would go a long way, that would drive more people to buy cards, not just females, but just people who are fans of it. Like the A Court of Thorns and Roses is what I'm looking at right now, right? So with that being said, they're not wrong. Okay, so don't hate on Wizards of the Coast for trying to be able to think of new ways to be able to get female game players to buy more cards. They don't control your local game store. But let's talk about your local game store, because some people aren't lucky to be able to have a good local game store, and we'll talk about that at the end of this video. But for the local game stores that are around in your community, I'm talking to you business owners specifically. These are things that are like type points, but it's about the execution of it, right? So the first thing you have to do is you have to create a inclusive gaming space. It can't just be about the dudes that come out to play Friday Night Magic. It can't just be about the dudes that come out and play Casual Commander or Dungeons and Dragons or whatever other night you have, right? You've got to create an inclusive gaming space. So how do you do that? First things first, it starts with the customers you have coming into the store. I don't think anyone should be excluded unless if they do something silly to get themselves excluded, right? The most socially awkward individual who can't even say hi to a female because of their social anxiety deserves to sit at a table and still play Magic just as much as my wife does, okay? But it's about setting standards and making policies in place that will not tolerate misbehavior. So when I'm talking about policies, we're talking about posting a code of conduct primarily in store and online where it's visible to see. People have got to be able to know what your standards are, and you should hold firmly to that. When it comes to harassment, when it comes to sexism or being disrespectful behaviors, none of it can be tolerated. And I'm not talking about from a man to a woman. I'm talking about from a person to a person. Don't tolerate any of it. Like, we can have fun, we can game, but this isn't a dude's locker room, at the gym where, they feel like they have all the space in the world to be able to say all the raunchiest things. This is a public setting where they have to be able to control themselves. And that's not just the guys, that's the women as well. I have some of my best friends who are women who are 10 times dirtier than I am. You've got to have a zero tolerance for all of it. You have to clarify what constitutes as harassment and make sure that it's very well known that includes a clear definition of harassment covering offenses, remarks about gender, sexual orientation, physical appearance, or any other personality characteristics, right? And I'm not like, harassment is not just sexual. It can be bullying. It can be, living here in Oklahoma, very conservative, right? So when my wife cosplays and she goes out and cosplay in public, she gets all the weird looks in the world. This has to be a place she can walk into in her cosplay and not feel judged, not feel like anybody's singling her out, not feel like anyone's picking on her, not feeling like anyone's over-sexualizing her because of what she decides she wants to do. And I will tell you what, on the flip side of that, if you have a very good code of conduct that is visible and that includes a dress code, all right, don't be super restrictive, don't be silly with it, but it includes a dress code, it's going to make people who might feel uncomfortable about other stuff feel more comfortable and like they can be there, right? Like, you can have a balance. And then you need to explain the consequences. So when that code of conduct is violated, what happens? And if you are a game owner, I'm telling you right now, Jimmy, who comes in 3 times a week and spends $100 a day every time he comes in, and you're making a good $1,500 a month on Jimmy, that pays your electric bill for that space that you're in, Jimmy might have to go if Jimmy can't control himself. Because for every one Jimmy that you don't allow back into your store, you're going to create an environment for 3, 4, 5, 6 more people to want to come in and shop often in your game store because you had a zero tolerance for Jimmy's behavior. Apologies to anyone named Jimmy who's not a creep, okay? And then you have to support and train your staff. You have to ensure that the staff is not only trained to recognize and respond to inappropriate behavior, but you also have to make sure that they're not afraid to intervene when necessary and that they feel empowered to make the decisions they need to make. At the end of the day, this is your store. You are the business owner. And you can have someone trespass and kicked out of your building just because they violated your code of conduct. And if you have an employee who kicks Jimmy out, and then you start realizing, oh man, that's a lot of money that we're missing because of Jimmy, you can't go back and backtrack. You just can't. Because that employee is going to feel like they do not have the power to execute the policies that you put in place. And it's going to show your customers that you truly value Jimmy more than you do them. You have to trust the process as a business owner, okay? You have to make sure that you put these rules in place, you execute the rules, you enforce the rules, that it will create an environment that customers are going to want to come back to. All right, so we've established the ground rules. That's the easy part because you and your staff can sit down for a 1-hour meeting one night after the store closes and say, hey, let's brainstorm this. Hell, you can just ask Gemini to write you a code of conduct for what you're wanting to do, and the AI will do it for you. That part's the easy part. The execution has to be there. But now you've established the ground rules. What about your store? You have to create a welcoming atmosphere. You have to. You have to maintain a comfortable store. You have to keep the store clean. You have to keep it well lit. And you have to make sure that everyone who walks into your store is comfortable. And it doesn't just matter like whether they're a female customer or a male customer. Like, it has to be a nice place to shop. So I told you there's a local game store that my wife felt uncomfortable in. And I'm not going to go into what store that was. I'm not going to talk about what made her uncomfortable. It's all the same tropes. But the store that we went into where she loved and she felt good and she felt comfortable in, that store did a lot of things that really went a long way to be able to add to its atmosphere. It was lit almost like a coffee house. It was the ambiance in the store and the aesthetics were nice and they were warm. There was clear separation on where gameplay took place, where you shopped, where the counter was. And so it allowed for not only free movement from one side of the store to the other, but more importantly, it allowed for comfortable spacing. And it allowed for people to not feel like they were bunched up on each other and stepping on each other. And I understand that not every space is going to have, not every store is going to have that kind of space to be able to do that. But you have to work with what you have. And you have to make sure that at the end of the day, look, this isn't just about your female customer. I don't want to be around people either. I don't want to touch people. Like, we are post-pandemic. And regardless of how you felt about COVID, we got used to a world with social distancing. So you got to have space. It's got to be well lit. It's got to be clean. It also, in both bathrooms, so it had 2 restrooms in there that were both gender exclusive. Is that right? Yeah, gender exclusive. Like you use either one. In both bathrooms, they did things to be able to make a female customer feel more comfortable. The grossest place you can have in your store is your bathroom. And if you don't keep up with it, you don't keep it clean, you don't keep it inviting, it speaks volumes to your customer, especially your female customer. So you've got to make sure that that's well taken care of. You have to make sure that you represent to your customer base a diverse staff. You have to hire a staff with a variety of backgrounds, including women, to be able to help all your customers feel welcome and to help someone to be able to approach with concern. Like, at the end of the day, your retail business is no different than any other body's retail business. When I go out and I look to hire someone, I look for diversity. And I am unapologetic for the fact that if I have two candidates with equal resumes and equal experience, I always choose diversity whenever I hire someone, because that's the X factor. Like, not everyone is a straight white male like me. And I think that too many businesses, they decide to only hire what they're comfortable with. And I think that that's the problem, right? Like, if you are a nerd and you're one of the sweaties, which I am too, don't get me wrong, you only hire people that you're comfortable with. And you as a business owner have to understand, you have to make a decision, more or less. Do you hire and build your business based off your comfortability, or do you want to make money? And I think that if you're uncomfortable with a diverse staff, you're in the wrong business. And I can't say that any more clearer. You have to promote inclusivity in marketing and products. So ask your customers what they're looking for. Find out what speaks to them, what their fandom is, and talk to them. Are there certain themes and characters that they're looking for? Are there certain themed nights or game nights that they're looking for? Like, you have to speak to your customers. And the best way to do that is with your social media presence. I think that if you are a local game store and you are not using social media to its fullest, you're missing out on some huge potential. Social media is hard. It is. Content creation for me is significantly easier than posting it. So you might have to invest a little bit of time, effort, and money into building your social media presence. But I'm telling you right now, it's going to pay off. Because once that consumer is scrolling through TikTok and they've already Google searched a couple of times for Magic the Gathering, where to buy cards, what local game stores there are, and then you pop up on their For You page and you have an establishment that is welcoming and that they want to go to, man, the sky's the limit on where your business is going to go. So you have to make sure that you promote well on social media. That is a must. That is part of your atmosphere. It's not just about your local game store. It is about your online presence. And then lastly, you need to train your staff for inclusivity. You need to make sure that your staff is equipped and they know how to be able to speak to customers and welcome customers. You need to make sure that they are well versed in your product and the game experience. And you need to make sure that you avoid assumptions in making sure that when a customer walks in, because like me, I may look like a normal average Magic the Gathering fan, but I had never played before, right? And it's intimidating to walk into a local game store and ask questions as a person who has absolutely no idea what you're talking about. Imagine that same thing, but it's a female customer who already has to deal with all the shit that kept her out of your local game store in the first place. Or maybe they're more knowledgeable than your staff is, but they're treated differently just because they're a female. Like that kind of stuff has got to stop. So you need to make sure that you train your staff properly. And again, I know these things that we're talking about are just like, well, duh, but it's about your execution to them. And I will tell you right now, you may not have the right staff. You may not have the right people in your building to build your business and to help that female consumer come and spend a day in your local game store. That's got to change. So here's the big one. We have set a code of conduct. We have talked about the aesthetics of your building. What about the people that come into it? We need to make sure that we're addressing the social dynamics and behaviors of the customers that are in your building. Encourage respectful interactions. Promote active listening. Discourage interruptions. And make sure that you foster a positive conflict resolution at gaming tables. I'm a super competitive person. You kick my ass in the game of Magic the Gathering, I'm pissed. I'm angry. But I have self-control, right? But some people don't. Some people don't understand those social behaviors. So if you're a local game store who really wants to get on the other side of this hurdle, right? Who didn't luck out by hitting all the right keys when they first started their business, and all of a sudden now you have a diverse customer base, and you're thriving, right? Not every game store is like that, but if you're one that wants to change, I would encourage you to really start looking and researching social dynamics and behaviors. When I first became a district manager in retail, one of the biggest advices that I got in my career was you have to decide what kind of manager you want to be, and you have to be consistent. And I decided I wanted to be a manager who was a coach and a leader. And have I always done that the best of ways in my career? No. Everyone learns, everyone struggles. But at the end of the day, I've stayed consistent in what my philosophies are. And one of the things that I really try to do is I try to take our young employees who this is their first job, they're in college or things like that, and I try to teach them what life in management is going to be like for them, because management is all the same for the most part. It doesn't matter whether you're in food, retail, business, whatever. Management is management, and those skill sets, they translate, right? It's got to be the same for your customers too. Like for your people that come into the shop, you have to take a special interest in some of those customers and their social dynamics. And I don't know if that looks like, doing more research on social behaviors and how to be able to help someone who maybe is socially awkward or things like that. But you do have to be very blunt and direct with your customers, especially if they're actively pushing people away. And sometimes that's just because of their social behaviors. The biggest thing you have to know, and this goes for the consumer coming in too, sometimes it's not their fault. Sometimes it's not. And I know that isn't me taking away accountability for them and their behaviors. But sometimes they've grown up in an environment where no one's ever told them no. And is that okay? Does that justify their actions? Absolutely not. But I think that for the game store owner, if you look at it in that lens of like, let me guide you, let me teach you, let me help you, it's going to build a more active community. It's going to build a more diverse community. It's going to hopefully get you customers who feel like you care. Because when you're talking about your local game store, like I can go to Walmart and I can buy Magic cards. I can go online, I can buy Magic cards. But I really enjoy going to my local game store. And it's because of that community. It's because of that social dynamics that are positive and those behaviors that are positive. So you have to be able to be willing to change that. When it comes to gameplay, you have to value sportsmanship. You have to create an environment that favors fair play over harsh competitions. Like it's okay to have the harsh competitions. It's okay to have those cutthroat game nights, but they can't be all the time. You have to be able to allow new players to be able to come in and not feel judged. So what I would suggest for this one is, people might do this. I don't know. I've never been in a local game store that does. But I would have some of your employees who are Magic the Gathering, because we're talking about Magic. Let's talk about Magic. Who are Magic the Gathering player fans. I would have those employees be willing to have a mentorship. And be able to, maybe it's a night that's not a big night for you in your game store, and maybe you have them come in and you pay them for 4 hours of work to be able to sit down at the table with newbies and walk them through the game. And I will tell you, as a newbie myself, I would pay $15 for the night to be able to come in and have someone who knows what they're doing to walk me through the game with other people who are learning and growing, so we can do it together. As opposed to, Monday night trying to walk into my casual commander night, and the only thing I know about what I'm walking into is that, competition level may vary from table to table. And so with that thought in mind, I think you also need to host female-only nights. And your first few, your first dozen may show no profit at all. You may not have very many people come in at all. But you have to market it. You have to continue to push it. You have to drive. You have to believe in the idea of allowing your female customers to come in and feel comfortable and feel safe. And it starts with you as the local game store owner and your staff. then that will start expanding into the bigger community and allowing people to be able to come in. You have to actively act against uncomfortable behavior and address any behaviors that may make other people uneasy, such as staring, unwelcome contact, or inappropriate jokes, regardless of the intent. And this is the tough one, okay? Because not everyone has the same level of comfortability with behavior. So this is where that zero tolerance thing comes in. Now, I'm not saying just don't have a fun environment, right? But we can have a fun environment without staring at a girl's boobs. I don't know if you know that or not. We can have a fun environment without touching our female game players. We can have a fun environment without making inappropriate jokes, regardless of the reason on why we're trying to make them or the intent behind it. We can have a fun time and make it comfortable for everybody. But I'm telling you, it's got to come with a zero tolerance policy. You have to stay firm on it. And then lastly, you want to be able to seek community feedback. I would very much welcome any form or fashion of, like there's a link out there that you can go through SurveyMonkey to be able to have people fill out an anonymous survey. You need people to be able to tell you, your regulars and your newbies in the community, they need to be able to give you genuine feedback. And when they do, you can't take offense to it. You can't. You need to use their feedback to be able to shape your store's policies and its culture. You can't be upset with it. Because if you start this process, the feedback that you're going to get at first is going to be negative. It is. Because most of the time, when people leave reviews and they leave feedback, it's because they're upset about something. That's why it's so difficult for places to be able to get 5-star ratings at first when their businesses first open up, because like there's not a reason for a customer to give that 5-star rating for the most part, because they're not attached to any reason to give one, right? But if they're pissed off, they're going to quickly go and bomb your business, and you have to be okay with that. So your feedback you're going to get initially is going to be negative. Live with it. Use it. Help it make you better. And then once you start building a community and start building players to be able to come in that are more diverse, that are more comfortable, that you're creating an environment that's not exclusive to just straight white men who are sweaties playing Magic the Gathering, you're going to start getting more positive feedback about ways that you can not only build your business but continue to grow. So here's my last, takeaway here, is when it comes to your store, understand, like I said before, that it's not just the brick and mortar, it's your online presence. And I think you need to be able to build online platforms that will show your female customer that it's safe to come into your shop long before they even Google the address. So really work on your online presence, really work on your social media presence, and making sure that everything you're doing is to be able to show your consumers and your customer that you welcome everybody. If you are the customer, you got to give your local game store a chance. Okay, so like I get it. Like you have no reason to believe me or your local game store that it's going to be a safe place to go into. So I do always tell you to proceed with caution, because dudes can be creeps. But not all dudes, right? Not all guys. And so I just want to be able to encourage you, if you are not the local game store owner, you're the customer looking for a safe place to go, to provide that feedback to that local game store owner, so that way they can start making changes. Don't judge them. Don't hold it against them. They don't know what they don't know. Educate them. Tell them what you need. Don't be offended when every single one of your needs is not met, because in this endeavor for a local game store owner to try to be able to be inclusive for everybody, you're not going to be able to make everybody happy. And I'm sorry to tell you that if your biggest concern is the creeps that are in the local game store, they may do everything perfectly. They're still going to be creeps. They're still going to be assholes, and I'm sure you as a female know that way more than anybody can attest to. So look for the effort that they're putting in, right? Look for opportunities to be able to give feedback, and understand that there's a difference between being a creep and just kind of being socially creepy. Neither one of them should be tolerated. But I think when you're a creep, you're actively going out trying to be that guy, right? Trying to make inappropriate comments and jokes, trying to hit on you, trying to get your number, thinking that for some reason you're going to come in, play a hand of Commander, and then leave to go to bed with them. Not all guys are that way. But there are some guys, and a lot of guys, that their social dynamic, they don't know any better. So they're still learning, right? Don't tolerate it. Don't put up with it. Don't be around it. But also understand that sometimes, like, if they're putting forth the effort to learn and grow, that matters too. When I was growing up, I grew up very religious, and I grew up in a household that was very racist. So as an adult, I actively have to make a decision every single day to not be the person that I was taught to be for the first 15, 20 years of my life. It's a choice. And I'm asking for a little bit of leniency when it comes to people who are trying to change their choices. That's all I'm asking, right? Don't put up with it, don't tolerate it, but also don't hold it against the local game store owner if they're putting forth that effort. So, listen, those are my talking points. There are so many ways we can dive into each of them, and I might make more videos about each of them if this seems to be helpful for anybody. But I mean this as genuinely as I can. If you're a local game store owner, or if you're a female consumer who is having issues going to your local game store because of the setup that's there, I would love for you to reach out to me. My social media handles everywhere, you can find me at the Batman Drew. I would love for you to be able to reach out to me and tell me what it is that you're looking for, because one of the things that I want to do with my online space is I want to create a community of people who help each other, who grow, who enjoy their fandom together, and I want to make sure that we create a space that can help each other and support each other. So if you're a local game store owner, again, this was a quick bullet point of some of these talking points. I'm being genuine. If you have questions, come to me. Like, this isn't me trying to be like, oh, for my services, just pay X amount. I might ask you for a booster pack. Who knows? I'm just joking. But seriously, ask me. Ask me anything. I have a wealth of knowledge that I would love to be able to help, because I think it's going to strengthen the community. It's going to make your business better, and it's going to help. If you're a game player and there are certain things that you're like, hey, this video was great, but this is my specific problem, let me know, because I would love to be able to talk about that. I'd love to be able to make an editorial about that and create a better environment. Wizards of the Coast doesn't control your local game store. Your local game store controls your local game store. Let's change it. Let's fix the issues. Let's make sure that everyone is welcome in the community, except for the ones who are being deliberately creeps, right? Those people can go F off and play, Magic Arena on their tablet at home. But if you're trying to play the game, you're trying to be active with the community, and if you're socially awkward and this is your way of being able to try to have some interactions, if you're a consumer and you are scared about going to your local game store for the first time because of the experience you might get, if you're a local game shop owner, we can all grow together, I assure you. Thanks, guys.